mediation is an effort to seek a common ground, to identify the issues that led to the conflict and to find means of resolving them in a peaceful way, in a peaceful manner, rather than through war or through violence.
Well, peace mediation can be called the intervention in potential conflict situations to avert an otherwise catastrophic situation.
A good mediator is a person who succeeds, indeed, to bring together conflicting parties, gain their confidence, and help them achieve the goal of ending a particular conflict or a state of war.
Where, in my opinion, mediation becomes important is that the people who are involved in a conflict must request the mediation, that the mediators must come.
Peacekeeping is already an operation that is costing so very much on the continent of Africa, but mediation and political intervention before conflict breaks out is a much cheaper way of resolving political disputes.
The idea is that we have to continue to create forums to make it possible for the groups in conflict to be able to reach a solution themselves. That is the hardest one.
Most eminent persons who are appointed to mediate have certain qualities that allow them to become effective, credible mediators. They have stature, they have respect amongst the parties, and that is why you choose former presidents or former ministers, because they bring with them gravitas, that the parties would accept them, because almost always one of the parties is a state, and so you have to deal with the president of another country. These are in political conflicts. So they bring gravitas to a situation, but they don't necessarily bring the technical skills of mediation.
Mediation support is a relatively new field for the international community that has developed the past 3 to 5 years, and it's an effort to assist mediation teams on the ground, but also institutions that are engaged in mediation and governments to be more effective in supporting peace processes. It can include a number of activities. It can include training, it can include provision of expertise to the teams that are actually doing the mediation on the ground. It can include a number of capacity building activities for the African Union or ECOWAS or even the United Nations.
Mediation support basically is assisting an official mediator to analyze the conflict, design a mediation process based on the analysis.
You have two different categories of mediation support. One is a technical support to a mediation mission, to a field mission, to the mediator, to the mediation team. But you also can define it, you can see it as a broad process, to a peace process, to negotiations, to mediations. It's important to make the differentiation, because sometimes you need people who are very closely able to collaborate, to work with a chief mediator. Sometimes you need people who are more flexible, independent of this mission.
For example, in many situations, a mediation process tackles a substantive issue such as land reform or constitution-making processes. And it's extremely helpful both for the parties and for the mediator to have access to comparative expertise, to what has failed in the past, what has worked, what are the options, so that not necessarily to impose a solution on the parties or on the process, but to create creativity, to inject creativity in the process and some understanding of what are the options and the difficulties.
Mediation support is needed because mediation is a very complex process, and at certain stages you have issues which needs to be, where solutions need to be found, where the mediation team don't have the expert knowledge. So you need experts brought in too. That's on the one hand, but I think also the process needs people who support it but who are more independent from the actual negotiation mediation team.
We as supporters have to be constantly conscious of the fact that we're engaged in political processes and not become too too technical in our approach. I think it's important to emphasize the strengthening of skills and the importance of professionalizing mediation, but at the same time understanding that there are limitations and that we are engaged in very, very difficult and very tense political processes.
Sometimes mediation, the support will say, I'm just a facilitator. I'm not going to enter, I facilitate the dialogue among people. But more than that, I think also the mediation helped to shape the agenda. Because some people might want one part, another part would like to get another part, but how to make a consensus, that is very key.
One shouldn't feel that if you were trained in mediation for 5 days without any experience or expertise previously, that you could let yourself loose on some protagonists and start mediating. Because it requires some level of experience. Now, what type of experience? If you're dealing with political conflicts, just having a theoretical background in mediation is not going to help you. You need to have some level of experience and grounding in the art of politics also.
The mediation support is needed because no mediator and no mediation team is perfect and omniscient. These processes are extremely complex. They bring together very, very diverse social groups. They bring together tons of different interest groups and different structural problems and different tactical problems that have to be addressed in a peace process. It's very difficult for one individual to think all of these issues through. And I think it would be a mistake to focus on the mediator. I think it's better to think about a team or a mediation actor that as a team tries to work through a process.